It's a festival, the season with the CGI dog and bird, the Red Ranger that dies when he lies, the most batshit insane season. I'm Alex and I'll be talking about Avatar Sentai Dawn Brothers. Now for this season, before I watched it, I saw a Dawn Brothers out of context video and I thought, this season is crazy, I gotta watch it. And when I watched it, I thought two things. That was crazy, and what was that? It was a huge surprise because of how different the season was compared to the other ones, but it's still fantastic. And also, spoilers for the season, Dawn Brothers the movie New First Love Hero, Dawn Brothers vs. Dawn Burries, Alba Ranger with Dawn Brothers, and King Oger vs. Dawn Brothers. Well, Avatar Sentai Dawn Brothers is the 46th entry to the Super Sentai franchise, and it is based on the legend of Momotaro, or the boy born from a peach, mixed with virtual reality. It's a really weird combination, but it works. This show has a lot of characters who are all fantastic and hilarious in their own right, but to begin, the series centers around Momotaro, who is the boy born from a peach that was found down by the river and raised by Jin, who along with his companions fight the Hitotsuki who have been terrorizing the town. Selected by Jin to become part of the Dawn clan to help fight the Hitotsuki, we have Momotaro, who becomes Dawn Momotaro, Kitou Haruka, who becomes Oni's sister, Saruhara Shinichi, who becomes Saru brother, Inuzuka Tsubasa, who becomes Inu brother, Kijino Tsuyoshi, who becomes Kiji brother, and later Momo Tanijiro, who becomes Don Doragoku and Don Torbolt. There's also Kaito Goshikita, who is Zenkaiser Black, whose counterpart is Zenkaiser from Zenkaiger, a series I have not watched yet. The Dawn clan also goes head-to-head later, teaming up with the Noto trio, who is Sonoi, Sononi, and Sonoza, who came to Earth to learn about humans and their patterns. And there's Don Murasame, who follows a sentient voice named Mother and serves the Noto trio as well. Going into each character briefly because all the characters are bonkers. For the Dawn clan, Taro is a delivery man who likes to beat up his comrades and wants to make a bond with everyone. Haruka is a manga artist who is accused of plagiarizing, so she works in a cafe. Shinichi is a freeloader who is allergic to money and eats imaginary food. Tsubasa is an alleged criminal always on the run from the law. Tsuyoshi is an office worker who is too obsessed with his wife. And Jiro, who has nice Jiro and dangerous Jiro and is also a tryhard. Kaito is also the cafe owner who has everything known to man. For the Noto trio, Sonoi, Taro's rival turned Odin shop owner, Sononi, who wants to know what love is, Sonoza, who wants to learn how to laugh, and Murasame, who is a child. Such a great ensemble cast that it's hard to pin down my favorite Dawn Brothers because they're all hilarious, but I think that honor would go to Haruka. Her whole story is outrageous, especially with her being a disgraced manga artist because her alternate future self went back in time and wrote the manga at the same time Haruka was writing it and almost got an award for it. Timeline stuff makes my head hurt, so I won't get into it much, but because of her future self writing her manga at the same time in this timeline, Haruka became disgraced and shunned and had to work at a coffee shop. Even though she was shunned, she never gave up on her dreams, and she's a very fiery person, and her inner thoughts and narrations always have me cracking up. Her narrations always feel like she thinks she's the only normal one there, but she is not. I do want to talk about our Red Ranger Momotaro for a bit just because he's awesome. He's very brutally honest, giving people scores on the food they make or the mangas they write. One of the weirdest things about him is how he treats his companions, as he calls them. He often treats them horribly, beating them up after battles to train them, and they still worship him anyway. Actually crazy work. This show, especially the characters, reminded me of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because all the characters are more or less not the best people, and are often terrible to each other. Well, mostly Taro to his teammates, but anyways, he's Dennis and I don't feel like explaining why. The storyline for the season is the Dawn clan trying to purify the Hitotsuki like I mentioned before, and they are humans who let their emotions get the best of them, and it turns them into monsters. They also aren't controlled by any one being or organization, they for real just get emotional and turn into monsters. Some people even get turned into Hitotsukis multiple times, including Kichi brother who is overly obsessed with his wife Miho or Natsumi. The monsters do have a sort of motif and is related to a past Sentai season, and when the Dawn brothers defeat one of the monsters or purify them, they get a disc that can transform them into that Sentai team. This show is kind of like Gokaiger with how they collect the discs to transform them, but unlike Gokaiger having all the keys to begin with, they have to earn them. They don't rely on past Ranger powers all the time. As for the semi-big bads, pinpointing the main villains for the season was very confusing because the Noto trio felt like the main villains because they were opposite the Dawn clan, with instead of purifying the Hitotsuki, they destroy them, so the Dawn clan and the Noto trio butt heads because of that. But they later learn the error of their ways and become good guys, even teaming up with the Dawn clan personally and on the battlefield, like Haruka and Sonoza teaming up to become a great raiding team, and Tsubasa and Sononi running from the loft together. But the main villains in my opinion are the Juto, who are capturing people into this pocket dimension they can't really get out of without outside intervention and taking their lives and appearances. There are three kinds of Juto based on what kind of origami they fold. There are the cat Juto, who are actually feral, the crane Juto, who try to live up to the dreams made by the people they take over, more or less, it's confusing, and the penguin Juto, who are the guardians of the Forest of Slumber. What is the Forest of Slumber? Well, with the origami that the Juto fold, they use that to take over their victims and send them to the Forest of Slumber. They were created by the Dawn clan to help the Noto and the people of Ideon to continue living by making a more sustainable source of sustenance rather than the brainwaves from the humans that they had been using before. The experiment went wrong and the Juto became a threat to everyone, so they locked them away in that forest. But they escaped, and depending on the Juto, they are just wreaking havoc on the human world. The cat Jutos were just ruining it for everybody. So many villains in this season, and unlike another show, Operation Overdrive, they had enough time to flesh out all their villains and have some fun with it. I was never really bored while watching this season. I gravitate towards funny or absurd shows, so some of my favorite episodes were of course the more humor-based episodes. Some of my favorite moments were the ones where either Taro dies or, unfortunately, anything related to Jiro. These silly moments were enough to keep me engaged so that I finished a show in less time than it usually takes me to finish shows. Enough about how funny this series is for now. This is where I talk about the movies and crossovers, the first movie being donbrothers the Movie, New First Love Hero. This special is centered around a movie adaptation of that manga that alternate reality Haruka wrote, and this is by far one of the funniest specials I've ever seen, just because of the exaggerated acting by Haruka and Taro. They are not actors, but they got cast into leading roles for the movie. This movie is like so bad it's good because they act like complete crazy people, but it works so well. And while they're doing the movie, the other donbrothers and Noto trio interject and get some parts of the story changed until they have to battle a Hurricane-style Hitosuki and everything's back to normal. Like most specials, it reads like an episode that was extended to 30 minutes, but I'm not complaining because we got scenes of Taro trying to act. Another special released for the series was the donbrothers vs. donburi special. This special was a short released online and it is very short, but like all donbrothers content, it delivers. This one is mostly focused on Sonoi's Odin stand with him trying to make a new menu with donburi, Odin on top of rice, that Taro loves so much that he tries to teach the other donbrothers about this. While Sonoshi, just for pure hatred of Sonoi, makes a clone of Sonoi who hates this idea so much that he has a food battle with Taro in order to see which dish is better. It's like a sitcom, but if they were deadly serious about their food, which makes the special so awesome. As for the crossover specials, the first one is King Oja vs. donbrothers. First of all, this special is absolutely wild because it mostly takes place in Hakabaka, which is the land of the dead. All the donbrothers, after being transported to the King Oja Earth, all die in very specific ways along with the King Ojers, and due to Gira and Taro fighting, the rest of them fight too. After they are done fighting each other, they fight Minoru and leave Hakabaka. Standard stuff. But the fact that they all died in this special amazes me. Like, they all pretty much died, but then they came back to life in the end, which is good, but that makes me wonder, what if they committed to the bit? Anyways. Saving my favorite for last, because I love Ob Ranger and I love donbrothers, this special I talked about in my Ob Ranger video, but I'll talk about it a little bit here too. This special leads into the Ob Ranger 20-year anniversary special, and I absolutely loved seeing them talk about the differences between Sentai seasons 20 years ago and now, because Ob Ranger and donbrothers are absolutely different teams in almost every way, especially with how differently their Red Rangers treat their teammates. Well, donbrothers is one of my favorite Sentai seasons, and I absolutely need to watch it again. Thank you for watching, and if you're still here, comment your favorite of the Noto trio.